Well, I'm glad that I waited to do the video about Conor McGregor running for president of Ireland because this morning I woke up to this. Conor McGregor is reportedly under investigation for online hate speech against the Irish government. And if you guys haven't heard, Conor announced that he would potentially run for president in Ireland. There have been sweeping riots across Ireland due to the murder of Aisling Murphy by an immigrant who was apparently there not working. He's from he's from some Slavic country, not working, was given a 4-bedroom house apparently, didn't have a job, just was given a house. And his contribution to Irish society was to go out on a jogging path and murder a school teacher. Now the taxpayers get to pay for him to live in prison for the rest of his life. And so Conor McGregor had some very choice words for the policies that led to that outcome. And throughout those tweets, which we're going to go through, he had said some things about the country being at war, about, what he might do in relation to this, which is run for office. And what I was going to say in my video that I was going to do about this before I even found out that he's under investigation is I was like, this guy better buckle up for them to throw him in jail. I will tell you that unequivocally. Anybody who knows my content knows I would never, that's what I was going to say, because that's exactly what I was going to say. They're going to put him in jail because this is the same playbook that they run every single time. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to show what Conor actually posted, what he said, what he actually said about the riots, which was he condemned them, of course. We're going to talk about them calling the reaction far right, of course. And we're just going to talk about the broad playbook that these guys run every single time that they do this, without exception. Every single time. You are either on the side of the establishment or you are far right. If you complain about their policies when they have bad outcomes, you are far right. That is how they delineate the whatever they call themselves and the far right. There is no such thing as the far right. Okay, I remember when far right used to mean that you had a shaved head and you believed some really crazy things about people that didn't look like you, like that's what far right meant. Okay, it didn't mean that you were not a fan of people who have been brought here to leech off of the government murdering school teachers as something that you were opposed to. That didn't generally mean that you were far right. And hypothetically, if you had some kind of outburst to that also didn't make you far right. I remember a time very recently, a few years ago, where if you had a violent outburst based on someone who had a bad outcome with the police, that meant you were like a freedom fighter. You were fighting the man. As a matter of fact, you actually don't even need to worry about this thing that's floating around and killing all these old people. Oh, well, actually, at the time, it's killing everyone. It's killing everyone. You need a mask. You need to cover your face so that you can stay safe. Unless you are out burning down a city, to protest racial injustice, then that's fine. That's fine. We'll even cover for you in the media. We'll pay for your bail. You don't need to worry about any of that. So, yeah, this is going to be a pretty sweeping video, not to mention that Derek Chauvin got stabbed in jail the same week that a documentary just got released that talks an awful lot about what actually happened behind the scenes in that trial, including the person responsible for trying the case saying to his underling, I know that he probably died of an overdose, but careers end with cases like this. Just directly said out loud, like, yeah, we can't, this is beyond us. We're going to have to prosecute this. We're going to have to put him in jail, even though we know he didn't do it. Not to mention, I watched the beginning of it. They actually show George Floyd while he's yelling with a white bag in his mouth. You see it in his mouth. Okay? Just in case you were one of the people who thinks that this fentanyl overdose narrative is very unlikely, they show him swallowing a bag of fentanyl. So, anyway, we're going to talk about all of that. So, buckle up. You know what I mean? Just buckle in, because I honestly don't even know where we're going to start, where we're going to end. I've already been talking for 4.5 minutes, and hopefully you like it. So, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff. This is kind of my wheelhouse. If you really want to, is your wheelhouse talking about dudes who marry older women? I mean, kind of. I like talking about that stuff because it's interesting. What about fight breakdowns? I like talking about that stuff. What do you really like talking about? This is what I really like talking about. Well, good. So subscribe if you want. All right. So this is what we're going to start with. All right. we are going to go to, actually, here's the other thing. I have not read this article yet. I read the title, BBC, and I was like, I think I'll look this over while I'm recording. I think that would be a good thing for me to do so everyone gets a very organic reaction. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to keep in mind, Conor McGregor is reportedly under investigation for online hate speech, and they are actually discussing passing sweeping legislation that doesn't exist yet. So he's under investigation now, but they're talking about actually passing new legislation that would drastically increase their ability to control what people post on the internet, as you would expect. I don't even know if that's in this article, but trust me, I read about it earlier. So we're going to actually look at what Conor McGregor posted, and then we're going to decide whether or not, wait, I don't follow Floyd Mayweather. What are we doing? Or PFL or Demetrius Johnson? Let's change that right now. Anyway, so this guy, all right, so this woman right here, this is what I wanted to show you. I want to show you two things, actually. This girl on the left, this is the girl who got murdered, okay? She's a young school teacher, and this is what her boyfriend said about it, which is the basis of what Conor's critique of the Irish government's policies is based on. How can someone come into this country, get social housing, social welfare, not hold down a job of any description, and never contribute to society for 10 years? Okay? That's what this guy, the guy who is the perpetrator, did. This is not the country that Ashley and I grew up in and once loved. It has officially lost its innocence. This country needs to wake up. This time, things need to change. We don't want to see any other family have to go through what we have gone through. This country is simply not safe anymore. I'm afraid our country is headed down a very dangerous path. Okay, so what exactly is he referencing? Okay, I actually went back and forth about whether or not to read this on the channel because I, don't want to get this thing age restricted, and also it's just kind of gnarly. But to put context to what we're talking about, okay, I want to read this because I read this and I was like, wow, dude. Because I think a lot of times that when violence occurs, people hear it, but they don't actually understand. You know, like it's like, because it happens to me. It happens to me. You know, it's like this guy was beaten to death. It's like, all right. And that sounds really gnarly, right? If you see it, it's really gnarly. If you really see it, and then if you read the autopsy and you hear what the injuries were and you hear what the person actually went through, it's much worse. So I'm going to read this and, buckle up, dude. So school teacher Ashley Murphy died as a result of 11 stab wounds to her neck, and there were no other contributing factors to her death. The injuries suffered by the 23-year-old Miss Murphy were mainly to the right side of her neck, including the severing of her voice box, and they were consistent with being inflicted by a knife or similar implement. Some injuries were consistent with a serrated blade, she said. The damage to the voice box and other injuries meant that being able to speak or at least make intelligible sounds would not necessarily have been possible. So she couldn't talk, she couldn't scream. Her ability to make noise had been severed by a knife. She noted that the hemorrhage on the underside of Miss Murphy's right eyelid, but was not sufficient to say whether the compression of the neck was also involved. So here we go. So I wanted to read this to you right here. Miss Murphy was described as having long blonde hair, which was blood-soaked with twigs, foliage, and brambles in it. Some dirt and blood was observed underneath the fingernails. That's all I'm going to put you guys through. Okay. So that happened to a 23-year-old school teacher by a person who was in the country, not an Irish person, no idea what they're doing there, but they were given a home and were not forced to work for 10 years. How do you survive? I mean, like, why would a person work? Why would a person do anything? Why did they do this? Don't know. No idea. But in every single country, it seems like the same things are happening. If I tried to understand why they do this in all these different countries, like if you look at the United States and you watch some of these videos of the southern border, and these people streaming over the borders. I mean, there's a million different angles you can take of, the ones of the military-aged male Chinese ones. There are so many of them that you're like, what is going on? Why are they all together? Why are there so many of them? You could take that rabbit hole, or just bottom line, why are they allowing this to happen? Now, if you want to take the time to go through all of Conor's tweets, I challenge you to go do that. The only tweet that I found that could be used against him in terms of initiating riots is this one, okay? Do not let any Irish property be took over unannounced. Evaporate said property. It's a war. Okay, so I apparently had liked that liked that tweet prior to Dublin burning down. But what he's being investigated for is hate speech anyway. They're not even saying that he initiated a riot. They're saying that he's committing hate speech. Most of his tweets sound like this, where a person says, this is the day of enormous relief for Emily Hand and her family. An innocent child who was lost was now found and returned, and we breathe a massive sigh of relief. Our prayers have been answered. This was, and here's the context from Twitter. Emily Hand was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th. The use of the term lost is inappropriate and fails to highlight that she was released as part of a hostage deal. Okay? And so Conor said she was abducted by an evil terrorist organization. What is with you and your government and your paid for media affiliates constantly downplaying, attempting to repress horrific facts that happen to children? You are a disgrace. The day after a stabbing of children in Ireland, not one paper had it on the front cover. We will not forget. So all of this stems from violence against citizens of Ireland or against children, and Conor believing that the media industrial complex is in on it with these globalists, and they are covering for these organizations, and he doesn't understand why. And basically, he's using it as a platform that he might potentially run for leadership from, and I'm not questioning his motives for doing that. I believe that he's 100% genuine in what he's saying. Probably make a really good president also. Oh, but Jesse, look at all the trouble he's been in. You know, he's going in bathrooms in Miami with blah, blah, blah. Dude, do you have any idea what kind of shit goes on behind the scenes with politicians? You have any idea? You really think that because Conor McGregor went, goes to clubs and did whatever and all that stuff, that separates him from politicians in our country? Give me a break, dude. Give me a break. He's never put on an animal head and danced around and put blood all over himself. Not that any of ours have done that, What are you talking about, Jesse? Nothing. I am saying nothing about that. But anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm actually not saying anything. I have no idea if anybody's ever done that. Just sound like a funny thing to say. Anyway, but so honestly, the most important part of this, the details of this are actually not even relevant. I'm not taking a side on any. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can guess which side I'm on. But the more important thing to me when we look at this is this, okay? Immigration's complicated role in growing Ireland's far right. Dude, you can't, well, they can and they do. All they do is people who disagree with the government are called far right. They've been doing it in this country. They now do it in that country. It's so tired. It's so tired. Like, you really want people to vote your way? That's the one thing that I don't understand. Do you understand people or no? Because the more that you do this, the more that you just classify people with completely legitimate grievances as far right, all you're doing is you're going to push more people over there. Now, are they really that stupid? Like, are they actually that stupid? I don't think that they could possibly be that stupid. You have to, at some point, be reading real polls and going, gosh, why are we getting such an enormous amount of growth on that side that we're calling all these nasty names and we're losing so much on our side? It's like, we figured you out, dude. You are transparent to us. You run the same game every single time. The truckers in Canada are far right. Really? It's a political thing. They're far right. The truckers in Canada who said, yeah, you've pushed the mandates too far and we're going to protest because it's absurd for you to force mandates on truckers who are riding around in a truck by themselves all day and interact with no one. It makes no sense whatsoever. Enough. And so we're going to protest. Oh, the far right Nazi sympathizing truckers. What are you talking about? They're not far right. Oh, these guys are mad that a Dublin citizen was murdered by someone who was in this country who wasn't from the country and been leeching off the government for 10 years. So they're mad, so they're far right. That's an unreasonable emotional reaction for them to have. Give me a break. And it's so obvious to everyone because all we have to do, again, like we discussed, is go back a few years and go, so how did they cover the BLM riots though? Like, were they calling them names? Were they pointing out Antifa? Were they calling them far left extremists? Were they saying things like that? Or were they saying, this is all due to the terrible policing in the United States where all they do is target and kill black people? What are you talking? If you applied the same approach to this issue in Ireland or in any of the immigration issues in any of these countries to how they treated the George Floyd riots, then what they would basically be doing is they would be being like, round them all up, round up all the people who are here illegally, round them up. They made people target police. They said defund the police, defund the police. It's all the police's fault. This reaction is totally justified. It's just so dumb. Like, you're not fooling anyone with this. You are not fooling anyone. So with Conor McGregor, the more that he pushes for office, the more likely they are to charge him with something. Bottom line, they will not let him win. And that was my point that I was making when I'm like, are they really this stupid? Do they not understand that they're driving everyone this direction? Because here's I'm not going to make any proclamations about anything. It just seems to me like people who could not guarantee the outcome of elections would have to play a different strategy. You know what I mean? Like, if you really had to go out and gain the votes to win, then you would not be doing what you're doing. Bottom line, when you see this kind of reaction, you want to know what people do? They speak to those people and they try to get their votes. All right? That is what you do. You speak to those people and you try to get their votes. That's what you always used to do. That's why back in the day, it's very easy to find lots of Democrats in the United States talking about the importance of immigration control. Look up videos of the Clintons talking about immigration when they were in office. It's a complete diametrically opposite to how people talk about it on their side now. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's because they actually, they're like, wow, a lot of people feel strongly about this. We should probably try to capture their votes. Is my theory anyway. I don't, or maybe everything's on the up and up, everything seems legit. But yeah, I don't even know what I hope happens here. I just know every time that I see this playbook run, it's just so tired and so boring. But it pisses me off every time. So Conor, because he has too many followers, he's not allowed to complain about a school teacher getting murdered, dying with her hair soaked in blood and twigs. I mean, Jesus. It's so stupid. I hope he does win. I really do. But, I would love to be able to talk about how I think the elections are actually running right now, but I can't, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And if you like the content, subscribe, ring the bell. I love you guys. Goodbye.